Hello guys, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon to wherever parts of the world you are located. Now, this is Nerissa Rilo from Pathfinder Reality Channel. I hope you will enjoy watching and viewing my videos. Hi there, I can see you at the back. I hope I can see you smiling. Okay, I'm smiling also with you. Thank you so much for each and every one of you who is watching for my video. Now today's topic, for all we know, the Ukraine and the Russia's issue is a very hot topic for this month and maybe also for the next month. We don't know yet when this conflict will be over between Ukraine and Russia. Now I want to ask you, I was also intrigued why Ukraine hadn't got NATO's membership successfully. Hi guys, for heaven's sake, this world is full of atrocities beyond our control. This is like the test of time if Russia and Ukraine will create a history as the most bloody war in 2022. The only worst difference in the conflict is the loss of thousands of lives, which is apparently inhumane, tragic, and catastrophic. Because this world is full of atrocities, then we have to pray that this conflict will be over, that this could be resolved as soon as possible. You know what? Even civilians in Ukraine now is under the hostilities of, I call them terror bomber, because they're bombarding hospitals, they're bombarding civilians, and also the aged, the soldiers, even the little innocent children are the victims of this war, this unprovoked invasion of Russia to Ukraine. The conflict had arisen because Vladimir Putin does not want Ukraine to join NATO. But on the record of the previous years, internal conflict had already arisen between Russia and Ukraine, related to Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk, where Russians had deployed Russian soldiers for these areas for more territorial expansion. But why Ukraine's upcoming membership with NATO can be seen as a major issue that ignited the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. NATO, as far as we know, is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and NATO's original treaty was signed in the year 1949. It states that it grants any European nation the right to ask to join NATO. Now, as far as we know, Ukraine is a country in Eastern Europe, and Ukraine is the second largest country by area in Europe after Russia, which it borders to the east and west side of the continent of Europe. It is the largest country by area, and that it is located entirely in Europe, while Russia and Kazakhstan are larger but aren't entirely located in Europe. Ukraine has a total area of 233,100 square miles, and so far, Ukraine is the largest country in Europe as far as we know. But why Ukraine hadn't got the NATO membership successfully? With 603,628 square kilometers, and Ukraine is the 46th largest country in the world, so NATO original treaty in 1949 states that it grants any European nation the right to ask to join NATO. But what happened to the supposed dream of Ukraine to become a NATO member? What happened to them? Why Ukraine hadn't got successfully the membership of NATO? Instead, this deadly conflict right now has a great connection with NATO, and this deadly conflict, a war that is happening now between Russia and Ukraine, has a great issue about the Ukrainians or Ukraine supposed membership because they wanted to become a member of NATO. But why they hadn't got this successfully, this membership, and this has been also the cause why the Russian invasion had started and they were attacked by the Russian, because the Russian thinks about when Ukraine will join to NATO, maybe there are some other issues and they cannot get the territory of Ukraine. And this is really a sad events right now, the bloody war in 2022, which is the war that will make a history between Russia and Ukraine. So why Ukraine hadn't got successfully the membership of NATO? As we know, guys, France and Germany before had passed opposed Ukraine to be included as a member of NATO unless unanimously consented by the majority of NATO alliances. Ukraine is not yet a member of NATO, so Vladimir Putin might be using NATO's issue as a pretext for invasion. But why? Why is it? What is happening? Particularly, it is not all about NATO. It is not all about Ukraine's dream of becoming a member of NATO alone, but it has a connecting issue on the past disputed territory of Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk. It is because Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk before are the disputed territory that Russia wants to get back from Ukraine, before that turns into an internal conflict and grudges between leaders of Ukraine and Russia. Finally, it is beyond control where it exploded like a shell bomb that curtailed so many lives of the innocent children, women, the aged one, and the Ukrainian defenders, which are the soldiers, and also the lives of the young Russian soldiers that were deployed to attack Ukraine. This is really not a good situation because this war means killing each and everyone. So there's no win-win situation in this case, only the loss of lives of people, the disrespect for rights.
But why Vladimir Putin launched an unprovoked invasion in Ukraine when basically Vladimir Putin is not even confirming with President Joe Biden, the present President of the United States and other European NATO members, whether these international leaders are interested for Ukrainians to become member of NATO. What are the reasons why Joe Biden and other European NATO members are less interested to accept Ukrainians in the NATO membership?
Well, reason number one why Joe Biden and other international leaders from the NATO are less interested in accepting the Ukraine that will become a member of NATO. Number one reason is that there are skepticism, there are doubts of expanding U.S. military commitment, why President Joe Biden's passion is cooled off. His passion becomes less and less. It is because of 2 decades war in Iraq and Afghanistan before. However, during President Bush presidency, Bush keeps on pushing NATO finally issue a declaration that Ukraine and Georgia would become NATO's member in the future despite reservations in the US intelligence agencies. So, the declaration was originally stated in the Declaration of the Bucharest Summit time as Michael McFaul, a former US ambassador to Russia, said that Vladimir Putin is only trying to distract important matters, while NATO's expansion is still debatable whether they will continue to expand or not. In the late 1990s, Mr. Joe Biden had successfully convinced to accept Poland, Hungary, and Czech Republic to accept these countries as NATO members. In doing this, Mr. Joe Biden visualized that this could be the beginning of a 50-year of peace for Europe if NATO would accept the Cold War adversaries. So if they will accept this supposed country that they think some of the superpower countries that are against them, if they will make an allies with these countries, Mr. Joe Biden's notion is that it is a better strategy to avoid more wars and to retain peace even just for 50 years if they will accept their adversaries into allies after the collapse of Soviet Union, letting the above-mentioned countries, Poland, Hungary, and Czech Republic, turning them into NATO's allies. Much more, Joe Biden believes that this strategy would correct historical injustice committed by Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was a well-known dictator in his time in Russia. Now back to the second reason why Ukraine hadn't got the NATO membership successfully. The second reason is President Joe Biden wants Ukraine to improve its political and legal system. But how Ukraine should do this, how Ukraine should improve their political as well as their legal system, that the Ukrainians should be fully devoted to democracy, that the Ukrainians must be fully accepting and be committed to individual liberty, and also that the Ukrainians should support the rule of law, that Ukrainians should exert effort to advance rule of law reforms, and that the Ukrainians should modernize its defense sector. Yes, Ukrainians are quick in this area because Ukrainians are also fast and better in tactical, logistic, and strategy when it comes to handling weapons and when it comes to, handling conflicts, especially in physical attack. I think the Ukrainians are more, they're some sort of a fast learner, intelligent people. And the other reason is that before they can join to NATO, the NATO members wants them to expand their economic growth. And third reason why Ukraine hadn't got the membership successfully from NATO, because even though there are important events in the declaration of the Bucharest Summit date on April 2, 3, and 4 in the year 2008, issued by the head of state, where in the Article 23 of this declaration, it was clearly stated that Ukraine was welcome and was invited by NATO to become their member. So at the time during the Bucharest Summit, wherein President George Bush declared this declaration in the Bucharest Declaration form, the president pushed NATO to issue a declaration that Ukraine and Georgia would become member in the future despite reservation from the US intelligence. So the article number 23 from the Bucharest summit, this declaration states clearly, we NATO we welcome the membership of Ukraine and Georgia. NATO promised Ukraine to become a member of NATO without stating, but there's a big question mark here. They want the Ukraine and Georgia to become a member of NATO, but without stating how and when. Nevertheless, it is a sad fact to know that all NATO alliance has never offered a formal action plan that Ukraine and Georgia will become a part of them and can join NATO to the soonest or as soon as possible, to the soonest time that the Ukraine would like to join them. Is it because of the NATO members are skeptical, wary, and unwilling to take risks because Russia is still pushing itself to get Ukraine back? Is this the reason? Though it has been an independent country, Ukraine has been an independent country. Much more. Guys, Ukraine, as we all know, Ukraine is located in the eastern part of Europe, but Russia doesn't want the NATO expansion up to the eastern part of Europe as much as possible. But we all know, guys, that Ukraine is originally located from the eastern part of Europe and it is a little bit separated from Russia. So it is an independent country. It is an independent nation. But still Russia wants them back. So guys, do you have any information why Ukraine did not get successfully to become a member of NATO? If you have some comments, just write it below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. We will still await the next news about Ukraine and Russia, and we will just hope that Ukraine will still win in this conflict against Russia. Because guys, it is very sad to know that there are innocent civilians, innocent children, that not only the Ukrainian people, there are lots of them that were already killed and they escaped from their own nation. This is not easy for them to see their homes being devastated, and this war will take time before the Ukrainian people can recover. So let's just offer our prayer for them so we can also help them through the divine intervention, that this conflict will be over, no more bloodshed, and the war will be over, and Vladimir Putin will stop sending his troops to Ukraine, because this war is the loss of lives. This is not a win-win situation. Everyone here is losing. So thank you for listening and for viewing to my video today. This is Nerissa from Pathfinder Reality Channel. See you. Thank you so much and God bless to everyone.